Now, you say that Chinese President Xi's motivation has been to reestablish the Communist Party's grip on the economy, and that this trip is unlikely to yield measurable results. So what's the function of these trips for China's leadership? Is it to project strength internally?
Well, I believe that Xi Jinping saw, this is their point of view, saw that the state, the party, was giving up ground and was being overshadowed by other institutions, foreign companies, Chinese companies, universities, NGOs, consultants. And what he's been doing over the last almost decade is restoring the control, the central control. Now, having said that, in the meantime, the economy has not performed, especially now, whether it be COVID, the property market, the stock market, consumers. And this is a sign, I believe, that they are shifting toward the economy after having achieved quite a bit of control. But look, the outcome of this meeting, just the fact the meeting was held, I think is very good news. That means that both sides are talking again and are willing to move forward. So the 737 MAX was good news. We also took a number of companies off the unverified list. So there are signs that the relationship will be restored to what it once was some time back. It'll take some time.
Is that even possible? I mean, I feel like we in America tend to view engagement as a positive in and of itself. But over time, when it comes to China in particular, engagement hasn't always meant what we thought. But to go to the economy there for a moment, what impact do you expect China's real estate woes are going to have on the economy there and on the public companies based there, which Dom mentioned are higher today?
Yeah, look, property has been one of the drivers from the very beginning. This is something where the central government was raising a lot of money. So absolutely, property will have an impact. It's already having an impact. I expect it will continue to affect companies in the stock market. I saw what you had up there. That could also be just a sign that the U.S. and China are talking, which is a very good sign. I think we've all been expecting this. We've all been asking for this. Again, I don't think that there will be some very specific gives or asks or outcomes of this meeting. They're probably saving some of those outcomes for a meeting between President Xi and President Biden. So, don't expect to hear a lot of specifics, but the fact that they're having this meeting is a very big step forward.
You mentioned presidents, allies and rivals of the U.S. are starting to weigh the likelihood of a second Trump presidency. How does that affect the way that China is going to deal with us now and the way the Biden administration should deal with China?
Well, I think another Trump presidency would create uncertainty. And I think that's just the nature, the style. What is the policy to China? Who knows? We know what it's been in the past. The tariffs are still in place, but it creates uncertainty. And when there is uncertainty, people can use it to their advantage, but it doesn't yield results. So I think this measured
does that mean China's going to want to try to do certain things to lock in either agreements, connections, consequences? Should there be a president next who's more likely to want to raise tariffs and rattle the saber?
Well, it could be. In terms of formal agreements, I don't know what can be done between now and year end, but these are not congressional bills. This is not signed into law. So if a future president wants to change this, a future president can do that. And that, of course, is part of the issue. The one thing that's remained constant, by the way, is export controls. And this is will be the tension in the meeting. I don't remember a time when export controls were taken off the list. The list started in 1989, and we just added and added. And I think Secretary Raimondo did a great job up front in saying, look, we're not going to negotiate matters of national security. So export controls are off the table. One of the issues in negotiating with China is that we'll go in with 10 different asks, and they will have one, export controls, which makes negotiation somewhat tricky.